I think people are very eager, me too, to understand Japan and China tensions.
Okay.
We know there is a historical background that you can, if they had a Bible, we would be written in the Bible, but yeah.
Right. Yeah.
How Japan numerous times humiliated China. It's complex. It's complex history, but I think you are bringing here a one of aspects of uh, Japan seeing itself as an imperialist force and against China. Could you please expand a little bit on that for us? The Japan blasting over remarks on Taiwan.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it's important here to note, because there will be confusion, that when I'm talking about the global north, I'm talking about the US empire. According to the Tricontinental Dossier, Hyperimperialism, a decadent, dangerous new stage. And Japan, in that framing and categorization, because of its active participation in fascism and imperialism, in World War II and after World War II, it's folding into the US empire. Japan is part of the global north. So that's important to understand here. And also, as I go over this, this week, Prime Minister Sane Takaichi, I'm sorry for pronouncing it wrong, broke with years of precedent last Friday by hinting in Parliament that Japan could provide military support for Taiwan under certain worst-case scenarios, such as a Chinese attack on the Democratic Island. Okay, so already there we have several U.S. propaganda talking points about Taiwan. We have to remember that Taiwan is used as a flashpoint for US war drive against China. Taiwan has a very complicated history within a context that it's a very long history, but the thing is, right as we stand, Taiwan and China are considered to be under one country, two governance. So this is accepted internationally. Almost all countries, the majority of countries absolutely accept this as a fact, including the US, who Nixon in 1972 normalized relations with mainland China and recognized mainland China as the real China and not Taiwan, which is just a small island with 22 million people. So you have to understand that wider historical context. And for people who want to know more about Taiwan's history, I really, really recommend looking at the Chao Collective's website. It really, if you can find it or I can find it, it really gives you a really good overview of the history of Taiwan and starts really way back, like thousands of years ago, and how it relates to China. So it's by no means is this independent democratic country that is going to be invaded by China. This is just simply not true. Also, just even Taiwan as a democratic, independent country, again, the issue is the US. US is backing a lot of elements of so-called separatism in Taiwan. As usual, this is their normal playbook. And also, even the thing about Taiwan, again, is that it is really the result of a civil war. And the KMT that basically started the modern Taiwan, essentially, after 1949, where the Chinese Communist Party, the Communist Party of China, is won the People's Revolution, and the KMT lost, and they moved to Taiwan, basically took over Taiwan. And I'm sorry if I'm saying that all wrong, but you can look up the history. So before that, Japan colonized Taiwan for 50 years. That's why this prime minister is saying this type of rhetoric as if, and then she actually goes on to say that if battleships are used and a naval blockade involves the use of troops, I believe that would by any measure constitute a survival threatening situation for Japan. And she is evoking this idea of defense when talking about Taiwan, which is a separate country. And like I said, a country that Japan had colonized. And also remembering too that Japan's fascist imperialist rampage across East Asia and Southeast Asia resulted in, some would estimate, about 30 million deaths in that region, including the Nanjing massacre, so-called massacre, but it's really a genocide that resulted in over 300,000 deaths. It was incredibly brutal, and there's a movie about that just this year. But here she's evoking this idea of like defense and peace through strength, which is mirroring Pete Hegseth here, who we can see on screen. He's talking about peace through strength, and he is addressing troops in Japan. Now, to give another further context of what the heck is he doing in Japan, addressing Japanese troops, there are about 53,000 US troops in Japan. That is the biggest amount of US troops in the entire world. The second one is Germany, and the third is South Korea. So we're looking at like an incredible subservience to US, I suppose. Germany is at 35,000 and South Korea is at 24,000 troops, US troops on. So can we even say that Japan can act independently? No. And here they're not acting independently at all. I mean, they're completely reiterating US talking points to further an escalation against China, because again, like I said, US is looking for war with China by 2027.
And how China respond to that? Because China, how would you say they respond to that?
Well, I would say there's one snafu here. I did not actually get this clip, but China had a very good response, and
I think you do have the
we had a good response. We also had a not so good response that was promptly deleted. It was escalatory, and it was deleted, I think, from the Chinese official in Japan. But this is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's a very strong statement, but it's more diplomatic than the other one that was deleted. So here he says that.
Do you want me to go back on that one?
Should we just play it?
Yeah, let's just play it.
Yeah.
Let's put what's going on here. Oh, gotta give me a moment. I don't know what's going on here. Because China tends to be far more, by the way, if you're watching us, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like.
日本领导人
Let's hear him.
日前在国会公然发表涉台错误言论，暗示武力介入台海可能性，粗暴干涉中国内政，严重违背一个中国原则、中日4个政治文件精神和国际关系基本准则，同日本政府迄今所做的政治承诺严重不符，性质和影响极其恶劣。中方对此强烈不满，坚决反对，已向日方提出严正交涉和强烈抗议。台湾是中国的台湾，以何种方式解决台湾问题，实现国家统一，纯属中国内政，不容任何外部势力干涉。日方领导人有关言论，到底想向台独势力发出何种信号？是否企图挑战中方核心利益，阻挠中国统一大业？究竟想把中日关系引向何方？今年是中国人民抗日战争及世界反法西斯战争胜利80周年，也是台湾光复80周年。日本曾对台湾实行殖民统治，犯下罄竹难书的罪行。日本当政者妄图介入台海事务，既是对国际正义的践踏，对战后国际秩序的挑衅，也是对中日关系的 严重破坏，中国终将统一，也必将统一。中国人民有坚定的意志、充分的信心、足够的能力，坚决粉碎一切插手和阻挠中国统一大业的图谋。中方敦促日方立即停止干涉中国内政，停止挑衅越线，不要在错误的道路上越走越远。
Ileana, it feels out of line out of their standard for China diplomacy. They tend to be far more selective and subtle. He's talking about strong words for China reunification. He's talking about egregious. He calls the aggression provocative. He's naming things by its name. What happened here?
I mean, I think usually I would say two things. One, China's actually become a lot more assertive on the world stage in the past few years. So that's one thing. But the other thing is a lot of what he's saying is not actually aggressive or unusual. In fact, every single year, it is well known amongst Taiwanese people, people in Taiwan, I would say, and also people in mainland China, that they will have a peaceful reunification. And the time of that reunification is really in like 2049. I mean, that is the projected time frame that they're supposed to be working towards. And the reason is China's projection of that time is that by that time there will be more democratic socialists. They will actually be they're working on a modern socialist country, and they will have more democratic mechanisms by that time, because they've reached a level of development and a level of high income for really, they're looking at moderate prosperity now, and they want like high income for everyone. Basically, a high income country is what they're going for by that time. That's what they're projecting that time to be.
And why is it so important for China to have a reunification with Taiwan? We'll look at Taiwan, so small, China so big, China so populated. Taiwan.
It's not important for China. You know, in terms of tangible, measurable things, it isn't important for China, as in China doesn't need Taiwan. Taiwan needs China, but just to be clear, China does not actually need Taiwan. But the fact is, Taiwan is part of China. Like, it's been part of China for like 1,000 years. It's been part of the sort of regional different factions, you know, before China became the country that it is now. For thousands of years, it was part of the trade route and different sort of under different like warlords and different dynasties. And it was officially under Fujian province from the middle of the 1600s. So it was officially part of Fujian province for like 200 years, and then Japan came and colonized it for 50 years. So it's always been like, you know, the people in Taiwan now are Chinese. I mean, Taiwanese, the language, as much as they like to say it's their own language and their own culture, Taiwanese is pretty much the same as Fujian, which is where my family is from. So I have family in Taiwan, I have family in mainland China, and I have family in Hong Kong. I mean, because these are all part of China. So that is very important. That is just a well-known thing. We are the same people. Like, that's the idea.
Like a colonial threat to have this part separated. It would be extension of the aggressions.
That's the other thing, is that the U.S. has openly called Taiwan the unsinkable battleship. So it's, again, another one of these like flashpoints for the U.S. trying to use Taiwan, trying to use Tibet and different parts of the Middle East, obviously Israel, etc., as this place to attack other countries within that region and to attack China. So there's a security issue, but there's like a real cultural, resonant, genuine like issue that we're the same people. And then, you know, like you're saying, there's a diplomatic reason, there's a political reason as well. But if we look at Taiwan, Taiwan definitely needs China. China's their biggest trading partner. I mean, you know, Taiwan is only 22 million people. It's a very small population, and obviously going to be overrun by U.S. agendas and U.S. interests, which you can see that it is already by the current president, Lai Ching-te, his remarks about APAC, when APAC came to visit Taiwan, he was like, oh, so praising APAC, the Israel lobby, that he's just a complete US puppet, essentially. But
and how important is Taiwan in the US war against China? How crucial it is?
I think there's two reasons why it's crucial. One is crucial because rhetorically, it's still one of the few places, because the Hong Kong color revolution didn't really work, right? So now the Taiwan one, they're trying to be like, it's a democratic, they want freedom. They're still using that rhetoric. I don't know how much it's really working, because realistically, the Taiwanese military is not prepared for any war against China. They know that. And I think even the
certainly not, yeah.
I mean, I think they can do like basic maths there and realize how stupid that would be. So they're really depending on the US to fight that war for them. I don't think they're prepared in any way to be the actual proxy. So I think that is, it seems a little bit unlikely, but the other reason, of course, is the semiconductors. Taiwan had like over 80% of the semiconductors were being produced in Taiwan. Now the US is trying to diversify, and that's actually why Japan is sort of entering the picture with their rhetoric as well. Not only are they in alliance with the US, they also do have an interest in these semiconductor chips. And they also are part of a new agreement with the US.
And looking at this map that you're putting here, US troops present by country, it's incredible the amount of US troops in Japan.
Yes.
I don't think this is very publicized. Germany, yes, we know. I lived in Germany.
I think a lot of people outside of Germany don't know how big the US bases are in Germany.
No, they don't. Yeah.
Germany, it's obvious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Germany is number 2. Japan is number 1.
Yeah, guess why?
Yeah, exactly. Because of China. And then again, South Korea is number 3, which again, guess why? Because of China and North Korea. So
and I mean, China certainly knows this is the latest statements by the Japanese president, fully ideological alignment with American fascism. Let's start talking about not MAGA, but American fascism. They know it's a provocation by proxy as well. I mean, Japan has its own interests, but yeah, you rightly said, but it might be more difficult to call a revolution here. You need a Zelensky, you need a clown to help you out.
Taiwan does have a clown, to be clear.
Okay.
They have a clown. That's why he was talking so highly of APAC. But the situation is that China is not Russia. Russia felt very much provoked. And I think the analysis there was that it would escalate, that the issue in Ukraine would escalate, and they should act then when they did, rather than wait for it to escalate further. China needs to not engage in any military conflict. That's actually in their best interest, to just allow the US to continue to decline on its own and to continue to work on their productive forces within their country and work on their agreements and alliances with different Global South countries to strengthen Global South in general is the best, most productive strategy.
Yeah,
right?
you took a very interesting point, because China philosophy, Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism, it's I don't, in the general, the Chinese culture towards war is the best war is not that one that you use your resources most effectively. It's the war that you don't need to fight, that you dissuade your enemy to fight. So it's an incredibly different strategy than the US. US is applying use of force, and the Chinese mentality is also that non-action is a huge action. Silence is a huge action. And I don't think China will go into a war they don't know if they're going to win. I think this is also part of the mentality. If one day we hear that China has gone to war, I would say They had no whatsoever option left, and they know they're going to win. I would say so.
And they will not strike first. They just absolutely don't have a strike first.
You're right. Yeah.
Just looking at the comments here, someone saying, guess no one reads the chat at all, which I've been reading. And also, why would anyone want to be used in proxy war unless forced? Yes, absolutely. No one would, in theory, want to be used in a proxy war. But like, as we have discussed earlier with Matt Kennard, the three pillars of power and coercion that the U.S. empire uses across the world, one is military, one is financialization, and the third one is propaganda. So sometimes you do get propagandized, captured populations that involve themselves in, with legitimate gripes. That's how color revolutions kind of take root, is they have legitimate gripes, but the solution that they present is always incorrect with a color revolution. It's not a solution. Yeah. So, but that's how you capture a population. And then, of course, you install a puppet's head that will do your bidding, that has its own self-interest, either through Epstein type of coercion or through a lot of money. I mean, next week, I think we will be covering the Ukraine corruption scandals that are coming out. We've always known that Ukraine is greatly corrupt, but there are some revelations that are coming out now, and we have to think about why. But I think next week we will cover that. But certainly, those are the reasons why a country would involve itself in a proxy war. So hello.